There is a need for creation. The goal is to have this need for creation, also useful for others.
Clearly it was the distinct sculptural language of the product that attracted me to côte&ciel.
It was unique, distinctive, there was nothing like it in the market.
It stands out and you notice it.
It's almost as if it's more sculptural and architectural rather than fashion.
Maybe on the second look you can see the shapes that are slightly different.
We immediately clicked each other.
You could see the intent and the thought process that had gone into the product.
So if you know côte&ciel, maybe we have the same interest. Côte&ciel in Paris is that.
The story of the Ariza started before côte&ciel. I did it for my boyfriend. He just needed a bag at work and have his computer and his, running things.
At that point, people were coming off BlackBerries, starting to use iPhones for their day-to-day work communication as well as life. There wasn't many brands really catering to that traveling creative that was always on the move and needed to make sure they had a product that was built to carry that gear with them.
I think I first came across the brand in 2010 or thereabouts when I was working at Dazed and Confused. And my impressions of the brand, it's a long time ago, isn't it? But I suppose working at Dazed at that time, it's a very sort of fashion-focused environment, and fashion is all about looks and outfits, and côte&ciel is a bag brand, so it's a product brand, and for me anyway, I was quite intrigued by that. So côte&ciel kind of came through and landed in London at a very interesting time, I think.
I mean, the community around côte&ciel for me is very interesting because I feel it's a brand that attracts, first of all, industry and design people. When I'm at their events, it always feels like, oh, I'm meeting people who are doing things. And then when it comes to Japan, it is a carrying culture. Everybody goes to work, everybody has a suitcase or has a backpack. And I do believe you sometimes see these guys who have a special black bike, a special, let's say maybe they have a special dress shoe, and then they also wear like a special côte&ciel backpack.
I still think that fashion thing is not my place. So sometimes I'm like, I don't know where to place myself. Like now I see an established brand, with a concept.
They sit away from trends by maybe creating trends, but I do believe not caring about trends, which is ultimately the right thing to do for a brand, to stick to your guns.
I first encountered côte&ciel when I was a college student studying industrial design in New York. Everything was designed specifically for that product. It didn't seem like they were just kind of cutting corners. It felt like every kind of faceted edge, every fillet was purposefully and intentionally thought about. You could see that they really cared, and it really stood out to me. Like that understanding of pattern cutting, the understanding of how to create a product that can transition seamlessly from one to the other, and that type of execution, specifically at that time, was super impressive. But I still feel like they're underrated to a certain extent.
Maybe on the second look you can see the shapes that are slightly different. Very Japanese, I think that's why it really fits so well. I would describe the brand as a design-focused brand with functionality that sits on its own island of design. I think there's a certain way of being consistent with what they're doing, Then when you look at Japan as a very design-focused, aesthetic, balance-focused country, again you see the ESA and other models here and there popping around in the cellaring culture, but also with the fashionable people. I think the perception there is very positive. It really fits the country with its ethos and with how it looks. And I do believe there's more to come and more to even achieve in Japan.
Well, my role is to create the conditions for the design to thrive, really, which is in the process, in simple terms. Emily's design is the soul of the brand.
It shows that we are a design brand more than bag makers.
You can kind of tell what it is from a distance without seeing a logo. Imagine that 100 meters away, 50 meters away in the profile, like, you will notice that, you will recognize it. And from a brand point of view, that's invaluable.
It's fun because when you see someone with a côte&ciel cross bag or accessories or whatever you want, you have just a small exchange between guys like, oh, you know côte&ciel, so if you know côte&ciel, maybe we have the same interest.
I'm gonna start cutting this. I didn't have to draw because I didn't have to show my ideas. So I went like really freestyle, started to cut fabric and build something that you saw very, very simple.
Her method of make and how she thinks about the design intent of the product. There's always a very nuanced design appeal to the products. I think, especially with Emily at the helm, there's this like beautiful kind of like playfulness almost, where it is highly like utilitarian. It's a really beautiful kind of juxtaposition of this kind of contorted, controlled, DNA and molded accents with this kind of fluid and loose forming, performance-based aspects of what you need to have when you're creating, bags and coats and things like that.
I see movement, which is also the reason why I don't draw. I see movement of fabrics, or it's me activating the fabric to obtain something, or it's somebody using a bag. I try to go as soon as possible into the fabric to stop thinking and just manipulate the fabric. Feel instead of think.
From a design point of view, what intrigued me was I would almost describe the brand as fluid as well as angular somehow. It's a brand that manages to combine those two, almost like, opposites in terms of design.
That's that Japanese, concept, wabi-sabi. The beauty is like temporary. Defaults become beauty, and things like that. I try to learn how to let it go. Now I'm much more into, okay, let's try to let this fabric fall with gravity. It's a bit like the kids, when they, let something fall on the floor and they're like, Mommy's giving it back to me, let's try it, and it's falling, and it's falling. I try to let the fabric free and learn how to accept that it doesn't fall like I would like it to fall, and collapse.
There's a lot people could learn from studying the way she designs. The idea of creating form and structure and strength and utility through this way of folding and manipulating fabric is pretty amazing.
As you know, the age-old kind of industrial design tenets of like, you know, form follows function. I think you're really seeing that with Emily's approach to how she designs côte&ciel. You know, this kind of approach of this 2D initial kind of flat lay of material, and then thinking how to contort that, how to think about the pattern, how those shapes come together to create this really intricate 3D object that isn't just beautiful, but actually functions. You're bringing together a multitude of different kind of understandings to create this object that harmoniously does all of these things all at once.
When I try to build something, I know that I don't use a zipper as I should. Most of the time there are not openings to get into something, but there are more ways to build shapes and volumes. At the end, zippers are also entries into a volume and also entries into pocket. And since I keep on, you know, trying to fit that bag on me, trying to manipulate it, the functions are just, you know, emerging from the shape. When I start to imagine around that shape, I see like a story, like this person is gonna use that thing in that way to do that, then it becomes a product. When you're creative, you also need a box to be able to think out of the box, right? And that box, I'm not afraid of it.
There is a deep mutual trust between Emily and I do find myself sometimes in situations where I do have to challenge her, but this always naturally happens with the utmost respect for her overall vision.
If you're afraid to make mistakes, you can't do anything new.
Every project that we do really all stems back from either Emily's design or the fabrics that we're using or the construction of each bag.
Joey, super good talent. He was behind most of our great work for the brand. He now works at côte&ciel. We now work together. And it's very nice to see what he's doing there.
Actually, I started to have a conversation, like a dialogue, a proper dialogue with Joe about what côte&ciel is. First of all, via emails, and then we had few calls where he explained us what the brand was about, and let's say is about.
I think this setup with Emily, Graeme, the veteran who really has been working in fashion for so long, Joey, like,
we as a team can grasp what she's trying to do, then relay that through communications, through visual language.
What really stays with me, and will always stay with me, is this immense trust they had towards us, which is not granted, especially nowadays. You know, coming to someone very young as me and as Luca and Albi as well, you know, and almost giving white page. You can do anything you want, yet you have to give a meaning to what you're doing. You know, and this for me, it's something that I will always keep in my heart, really. Not to go too dramatic Italian, but it's really, you know, a big gift they gave us the trust of saying, okay guys, we trust you 100%, go for it.
The store of côte&ciel is in Rue du Pont-aux-Choux. Donc in the Rue du Pont-aux-Choux, here in Paris, it's my street. You know, it's a specific street because this street is a link between le Haut Marais and le Bas Marais. It's two important areas in Paris. Le Marais is a specific area here because it's a fashion area, if you want. And côte&ciel is at the top of the street, and here in Gaijin, we are in the bottom. Literally, I'm always here because it's a store of a friend and I work here. And when you are in my street, I visit you.
I love the tagline they have, to hold but to carry or something, no, or vice versa. Like, there was a tagline, I loved it because it was something that clicked in my mind as a movement, you know, something that could have, you know, be translated in a movement series. That was the first glimpse of the brand. What interests me a lot was the fact that it was almost like one product-based brand, like bags as a core product. They were not like a key focus on ready-to-wear as well as shoes. It was, you know, the bags.
I've always thought of it as a brand that happens to do bags, but is a design company.
For me, it's related to the horizon. The coast, when you're on the coast and you look at the sky, in front of the sea, you see a line, that horizon, which is not really existing. And that line, which is the area where both are colliding, that line, it's your goal, but you'll never reach it.